All right, we're back here with another review of Hawkeye, the penultimate episode of Season 1. Very likely the only season, but we're talking about every season or every episode of Hawkeye here every single week. And today we're talking episode 5 entitled Ronin. A big episode, obviously 2 days out from Spider-Man No Way Home, which we're not discussing here today. We're going to save that for another time. But there could be some ties here with what happened on this episode, the time frame, and a lot of other stuff. We're going to be getting into all of it here today on the latest episode of this Marvel review. Again, talking episode 5 of Hawkeye. Let's bring in the cast and crew themselves at BR_Doctor, Chris BR_Doctor on the Twitter machine. Chris, I'm fucking up your Twitter handle, my man. What's going on, dude?
There's no underscore in my real name.
There's no underscore in your real name. I'm still recovering, as you could probably tell, from No Way Home. Phil, you're back here. I think we all are right now. Phil, I'm sure you are as well. Phil DL616 on the Twitter machine. Phil, what's going on, dude?
I'm good.
You've seen the movie.
We're all still in like Spider-Man mode.
You've seen it once, but by now or twice?
I've only seen it once.
Once, okay. Well, it's definitely worth seeing. I think more than once. I mean, this one's it's crazy. But again, we're talking Hawkeye. I got to stay on track here. And for the very first time, making his debut here on the show, we got Liam Crowley. Liam, I forgot to ask you before we hit record here what your Twitter handle was. You're gonna have to shout it out for me. But welcome to the show, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. At Liam T. Crowley. So exactly how my name is spelled, but with that middle initial in there. And yeah, I'm so stoked to talk about this episode of Hawkeye. This is actually the third time on a podcast I've spoken about this episode, but I can't complain because I absolutely adored it, and I think it sets up for a pretty cool finale.
Absolutely, and it's crazy too because we're speaking now on Saturday. I'll probably put this up on Sunday or Monday, but like at this point from when we're talking right now, I don't want to say it feels like old news with what's happened in the last 48 hours, but it feels like it happened a year ago at this point, so I kind of have to refresh my memory as we're speaking here today about it. But Liam, so what we do every time we have a new person here on the show, I kind of like to ask them about what their backstory is as far as like, introduction with Marvel, when they started watching the movies and the shows or the comics, if you've been into that stuff, and kind of what your knowledge level is of the MCU and the entire Marvel universe.
Oh, man. Well, I'll give you the Spark Notes version because it is a long story. But I saw the first Iron Man in theaters when I was 7 years old. So I've seen just about every MCU movie in theaters, which is pretty cool. But the first, it's actually kind of full circle with what happened this weekend because the first comic book movie I ever saw in theaters was Spider-Man 3 in 2007. And that's why I've become like this Twitter Spider-Man 3 apologist because I just will always look at that movie with rose-tinted glasses because of how it just kind of launched me into this fandom that has quite literally changed my life. 2011 was when Cap, First Avenger, and the first Thor came out. I saw those at one at a theater, one at a drive-in. And then I just got hooked. I heard that they were making this Avengers movie. I was looking up news on the daily in 6th grade when we went like back to school shopping. I got like all Captain America, like notebooks, folders, pencil sets. And 6th grade is like when you're supposed to be like trying to be cool, I guess. So me bringing all the comic book flavor into middle school was weird socially, I guess, but I didn't regret it. I was loving life, and that first Avengers movie, quite literally, like I said, like changed my life. It made me want to talk and write about this stuff for a living. And flash forward to today, I'm a senior at Syracuse University studying broadcast journalism, and I love all angles of news, that being hard news, sports, and entertainment. But I've really put my focus lately on entertainment and the coverage I do for thedirect.com. Most of y'all probably know them as MCU Direct on Twitter because each of our branches has their own Twitter page. Has been so fruitful this past year, getting to do press for Falcon Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Eternals, running my weekly podcast, getting interviews with people I really admire in the industry, connecting with people like you who are super fans but are also like contributing to the entertainment and journalism industry. It's been the time of my life. So even though I'm still pretty young, I'm quite literally planning on making this my career, and we'll see how that goes. But right now, just all smiles, especially when weekends like this happen, when, as you guys mentioned, Hawkeye feels like old news and we have a new Spider-Man movie. A year ago, that would sound crazy. We were grasping at straws just to get a trailer or a set photo or a piece of promotional art, and now we get penultimate episodes on the same weekend of what will be the biggest movie of 2021. It's crazy.
It's just absolutely wild. And like you said, we're going to be closing out the year on a high note with this show next Wednesday. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've said this before, but I think Book of Boba Fett comes out right before that, or right after that, actually. I think it's the Wednesday right after that. So, again, a lot to look forward to. Yeah, the 29th. So, again, a lot to look forward to, which is great. Going back to what you said real quick, you mentioned how you interviewed a lot of people, been involved with this stuff for a while now. And you mentioned before we hit record, you're only 21, which is fucking wild, so congrats to you on that. Talk a little bit about that. Any cool names that we might know that you've been able to talk to over the last couple of years?
Yeah, my biggest interview still has to be Kate Herron. She was the director of Loki. We talked for like 20, 25 minutes. There was no parameters, which was very nice because press junkets, especially virtual press junkets, you only get 5 to 10 minutes. And if you exceed that time, you get kicked by the moderator. So you really have to plan out your questions and be very meticulous. Me and Kate were able to hop on a Zoom call with, hey, well, we can go as long as 30 minutes. So I had a lot of free-flowing opportunity to not only ask her questions, but ask her follow-up questions to certain answers she gave. And that was really special. I chatted with Kari Skoglund. She directed Falcon Winter Soldier back in March. And then as well as May, we did a postseason interview as well. Elijah Richardson is one that most people probably don't know that name now, but he played Eli Bradley in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And if anyone knows how his trajectory in the comics, he's going to be a very big player going forward in the MCU. So that's an interview I'm probably going to look back on very, very fondly. And then recently, I actually, cheap plug here, I have an interview with Ellen Holman. She's playing a mystery character in the Matrix Resurrections that she couldn't even disclose to me. That interview will drop sometime Monday or Tuesday, but I love doing interviews. Like, it's not even just about getting to talk with celebrities. It's about getting to establish like a human connection with these people who play larger than life characters on screen, and to get to connect to them on a personal level and, ask about their inspirations, their personal lives, what got them into acting, what they want to do going forward, whether that be producing, stunt work, casting, directing, etc. It's always an absolute blast. So I had a very good catalog of interviews in 2021. I exceeded my goal of 10, which I was very happy with, but 2022, I'm feeling very hungry, and based on the Marvel slate that's coming out, there's going to be no shortage of opportunity.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I feel that, especially since, like, it's great to get all this stuff, but, like, it feeds us with stuff to talk about and write about and all that other stuff. Like, it's the same thing with wrestling, too. Like, with the three of us, like, we all write about wrestling and whatever. If there's no wrestling going on, especially if there's nothing good going on, like, I don't like to complain about stuff. So, to come on here every week, the three of us, and now you, Liam, as well, to talk about something like Hawkeye. Like, a year ago, like you said, would have been absolutely crazy. No Way Home was, like, the last major movie before Black Widow came out this past year, and we've gotten 3 more movies since then, 5 shows this year, and it kind of gives us all more opportunities, which is great. And kind of go back to what you just said a second ago, Matrix comes out Wednesday, right?
Yep.
Wow, holy shit, there's so much stuff going on, I'm overwhelmed. It's crazy, but what I was going to say as far as Hawkeye is concerned, what's been your take so far on the show up to this point?
My big, hot take statement that I've had about the show is that it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, but it does everything it's going for so perfectly. Like, every episode of this show, there's been nothing that, they did not take any WandaVision level risks, nor Loki. Falcon Winter Soldier, I would say, was a fairly safe show, but they still pushed the boundaries with some of their thematic elements. Hawkeye every single week is not swinging for the fences. It's just trying to get on base. And some weeks it gets a ground rule double. Other weeks it beats out an infield single. But every single time it gets on base. Like, as of right now, in my opinion, it's 5 for 5. So even if WandaVision, to make another baseball comparison, went 3 for 9 and those 3 hits were home runs, awesome. But Hawkeye has gotten singles, ground rule doubles. Hopefully they edge out a home run next year. And I really appreciate that, because my favorite aspect of the MCU is the grounded street level stuff. My favorite movie, at least within the confines of Marvel Studios, is Cap Winter Soldier. I absolutely adored Falcon Winter Soldier. It's in my top 7, which apparently is a hot take because a lot of people slept on that show. And getting to go back to street level MCU and feel these larger than life consequences on a human level, how people would react within our worlds. To see graffiti on a urinal that says Thanos was right, that's exactly what would happen in the real world. To have Rogers the Musical, basically a Hamilton ripoff, exactly how our real world would react. So I love the MCU for bringing superheroes into basically our human planet, and Hawkeye is just taking that and running with it. And I've adored the show so far.
Yeah, we've kind of shared those same sentiments. I think it's been a pretty good show so far, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult as far as like where we would rank these shows. I think this is the fifth one of the year, as you mentioned. Like we had WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, What If, Loki, now this one, all in the span of 2021 alone, which is crazy, and plenty more to come in 2022. But yeah, it has been a good show, and there was a lot of talk going into this episode specifically. It was going to be a big one. Did not disappoint for the last 5 seconds alone. The big Kingpin reveal, we're almost 10 minutes in the first time I'm mentioning that name. Obviously, that was the grand takeaway from this episode, was the grand MCU debut, I guess, of Kingpin. I mean, obviously, he was involved with Daredevil. I guess we'll come to find out whether that's going to be canon or not. We'll discuss that. Chris, Phil, Chris, I'll start with you. As far as the Kingpin reveal, before we get into anything else from this episode, we didn't know if it was going to happen. We got our confirmation in this episode. Your thoughts and how it kind of played out.
I was so happy to see it. I mean, Wilson Fisk is one of those characters that so many people have been asking for Marvel to bring him back. Like, the Netflix stuff is done. Just use Vincent D'Onofrio again. And there was all those rumors, but you never know with Marvel until you see it. And even though it was just like a blurry picture on a phone, I thought that was like the perfect way to do the reveal, because then we still get the next episode. We get a big actual introduction there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that the way that they did it so subtly at the end of the episode was kind of interesting. And they did it in a reveal for something else when Yelena's like, oh, I'm revealing to you this super important information about your mother being the one who hired me to kill your idol. Oh, and here's a picture that's also going to change the entire show. Like,
yeah.
It was kind of like a crazy reveal wrapped up in a big reveal just for Kate's character.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I like how all that was done. But the whole episode was great. Like, the opening scene showing how Yelena experienced the snap, I thought was awesome.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm really glad getting to see more of that, because up until this point, we haven't seen how too many people re-entered the world outside of Monica.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Ripped away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of cool to see how she perceived that, and, like, to watch the bathroom change colors around her. Yeah, that was all done really well.
I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, we'll get into that. I thought that was really well done because, like, you're right. We had seen that with Monica back in WandaVision, but that was only when she had just woken up, and that was one of my favorite scenes from that WandaVision show. But this was like as it was literally happening from 2018 to 2024 or 2023 or whatever, as it's happening, and it was very interesting, very interesting. I thought that was great. But back on the Kingpin note, before we go further with that, Phil, we've been talking about this for a while. You know, we've been talking about Daredevil since I feel like we started doing these shows, as far as me having to watch it, which we'll get into in a little while. With Kingpin, though, your reaction, were you happy to see it?
I was happy to see it. As I've said a few times on Twitter now, I probably would have been happier if I didn't get on at 3 a.m. and see people spoil it right away. But no, it was great. I just think the way Clint just was like, oh, yeah, that's the guy I've been worried about. And he just saying it so nonchalantly. And like, it almost seems like a funny throwaway line, but at the same time, you got to think about it like, all right, well, Clint is also going up against Thanos and all these other like Avengers level threats. Like, to him, yeah, Kingpin is like a big deal, but he's not a big deal in the way that we see him as a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting, too, because we've been talking about this, and, you know, we talk about it every week, and with all the teases, too, of Kingpin, like we've talked about before, the Fat Man Company or sign or whatever it was a few episodes ago, and then they were dropping subtle references of the big guy. It's just, you hear that stuff, and you want to think it's him, but then I go back to WandaVision, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe Mephisto's in this, they're dropping, like, devil references, and then we get a Ralph Boner. I don't want a Ralph Boner on this show. I want Kingpin, and we got exactly what we wanted.
I mean, I assumed in the episode with Echo where he pinched her cheek and they showed the cufflinks. I was like, all right, that seems like Kingpin, but I don't want to get my hopes up just yet.
I also think it helped when Kevin Feige had said, I mean, I think we spoke about this last time, or maybe it was already happened. I don't remember when it happened, but when he had gone on the record and said, listen, if we're going to get, you know, Daredevil in the MCU, it's going to be played by the same actor. And I think by that point, a lot of people assumed, okay, Vincent D'Onofrio has to come back as Kingpin. There's no way he would be recast. And honestly, when I saw that picture, like we've discussed before, I haven't seen the show yet. I know what Vincent D'Onofrio looks like, but the picture was so blurry, I'm thinking, I really hope they didn't recast him. And then obviously they confirmed it in the credits, his name was in there. I'm like, okay, thank God. And even in the trailer for the next episode, which I just saw like an hour ago, they show you no shot of him aside from him walking with a cane, like from the back, from his feet perspective. So we don't even see his face until the actual episode starts next week, which is great. Liam, talk about the Kingpin reveal, your reaction to it. Did you actually think it was going to happen on this show?
Yeah, I expected it because of how obvious they not obvious they made it, but they gave such a big tease with the cufflink and the subtle laugh and just the larger-than-life hands that it felt very much like if he's not in this show, people are going to say the finale is bad just because he wasn't there. So I thought they very much kind of put themselves in a corner, but obviously it was deliberate because they knew he was coming. I was a little, I don't want to say let down, but I thought it was a curious choice to have the reveal come on cell phone footage. But at the same time, to me, I have to wait to judge that until the finale, because getting that shocked fear reaction from a grainy security cam photo from Renner and Steinfeld, I think that's going to do wonders for how terrified they will be when they have to meet him face to face. So again, I have to wait to see exactly how his first in-person reveal is. But to me, I'm just so happy that they fulfilled this promise, even though it wasn't necessarily a promise. The rumor just got so large, and people just started snowballing it, and were like, even if these aren't continuations of the Netflix characters, they were so good in the role that it just makes sense to bring them back. Same thing happened with J.K. Simmons returning as J. Jonah Jameson at the Far From Home post-credit scene, and then he obviously has a major role in No Way Home. And to see D'Onofrio back, and to see how happy he's been on social media too, that he can now freely talk about it. It's been fantastic. So I'm looking forward to the finale, and I hope his scene, and I specifically say scene because I only want it to be one elongated interaction, is similar to He Who Remains in Loki's finale, or the comparison I've been giving is when Jeffrey Dean Morgan first showed up as Negan. In that season, they've been building to it for 15 episodes, and, no fan left let down because he was on screen for like 20 minutes, but all he did was talk. All he did was emphasize how intimidating he is. I want this iteration of Kingpin to just talk and give a line similar to, and if you think I'm evil, wait till you meet my variants. That was enough to sell me on Kang in the MCU and get me so stoked for Quantumania. If Kingpin delivers some sort of line that makes him feel like street-level Thanos in terms of a threat, I am so happy with this series.
We got one more episode left. Or, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, it kind of makes sense that we only saw the blurry picture because that's Kingpin's MO. Nobody gets close enough and sees him and, goes away without, him knowing about it. Like, there wouldn't be any, really good quality pictures of him anywhere. He wouldn't allow that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Unless this is the version from Daredevil who was, out in front of the cameras all the time talking about wanting to be mayor and shit in the third season. He got a little more exposure, but I'm almost wondering if they're going to just not even address whether this is the exact same character and just keep moving forward. Don't repeat any of the beats from Daredevil, but you don't have to acknowledge them necessarily either.
So that was my next question for you guys. Do you guys think it's going to be the Daredevil show will be canon? I know we're getting the same actors with these characters, but are they going to acknowledge that? Did it happen while all this other stuff was going on, or what do you guys think?
I mean, if it is the same versions, then we'd better get Karen Page and Foggy Nelson at some point too, because I loved both of those actors on that show.
Yeah, we need to see Turk on this show.
yeah, give me Turk.
Yeah, if they're gonna do any more, bringing anyone back, the top of my list now is John Bernthal as Punisher. I think he'd be amazing within the confines of the MCU, but I'll give my kind of behind the curtain rationale for why I don't think that these shows will be made canon, and that's specifically because they air on a competitor's streaming service. They air on Netflix. So until Marvel can get the rights to, not just, they have the rights to do those characters now, that's why they're in the MCU, but until they can get the rights to stream those shows, I would find it odd for them to they could theoretically imply that they're the same versions, but I don't think they're going to outright say, hey, these are the same versions. And if you want to know their backstories, head on over to our competitor, Netflix's streaming service, where you can watch them all. So that's my thinking with whether or not they'll be canon, but I don't think there's going to be any outright definition in the finale. I think that would come in a postseason interview or maybe very far down the line.
Yeah, that would make sense. I was thinking the same thing as far as the Netflix thing is concerned. I don't even know what the the solution would be there. Like you said, getting the shows on Disney Plus. I'm not sure if that's something they're looking to do at any point in the foreseeable future. But yeah, to kind of advertise, hey, if you want to get the characters' backstories or find out more about them, go head on over to Netflix. I find that hard to believe too. So I guess we'll see. But kind of looking ahead again, I know we have one more episode left, but I'm just kind of curious. Where do you guys see Kingpin going from here as far as where we could see him pop up? I mean, if he is like the street level Thanos, like you said, Liam, which is a great comparison, a great way to word it, I'm curious where he does pop up. I mean, obviously the connection with Daredevil at some point, I don't think they would make their own show under the MCU banner right now, but where does he go? Where do we see him pop up next?
I think the top solution is Echo, just because show just recently announced, and the issue with Echo compared to Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel is Echo doesn't really have a flashy buzzword in its title. Like, all those shows I just named are brand new characters, but Moon Knight has Oscar Isaac, and the trailers alone are selling him as Marvel's Batman, essentially. Miss Marvel and She-Hulk has those keywords, Marvel and Hulk, that fans are going to tune in regardless of them being new characters. Echo, as a show, people will be familiar with her from this series alone, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily bring people in from the show title alone or its trailers. If you bring a heavy hitter like Kingpin into that show and you really stack up that show with A-list, not just talent, but characters as well, I think it's going to do wonders for it. So I would expect Kingpin's immediate future to be an Echo, and then hopefully they build to something really big. And like I said, if he's going to be street-level Thanos, have him be the overarching villain of multiple boroughs of New York City and culminate that in some sort of big team-up street-level MCU show, kind of like they're doing right now with Secret Invasion. So I hope that he has a bigger role than just him giving a monologue at the end of this season, and I think you'd be crazy to think otherwise.
Yeah, most definitely. What were you going to say, Phil?
No, I was just going to say Echo makes the most sense because like, she is attached to Echo. I mean, well, she's attached to Kingpin. And then, of course, like, her backstory in this show, like, it's clear, like, if she's going to go off and do, like, the big face turn, like, it seems like the big bad of her show is going to be Kingpin.
Yeah, well, they had kind of established here that he was behind the death of her father, right? So we're probably not going to get a payoff for that in this next episode. I don't think we will. But, yeah, to kind of branch off with that in her own show would make the most sense. But talking about Yelena and kind of going back to what Chris had mentioned earlier, which I do want to talk about because it was a very important aspect of the episode, kind of going through what they experienced from their perspective of the blip, the snap, I mean, where they disappear, but they actually don't disappear. Like, she experiences absolutely nothing, and then the walls kind of turn color, like Chris had said. What did you guys think about that and the reveal and kind of how it was done? Because I thought it was really well done for the most part.
I think the way they showed the blip from her perspective was neat because we haven't seen them do that yet. All the way to it almost looked like the walls were like reality rewriting itself. And we haven't seen that yet. So I thought that was cool. I thought the fact that there was a widow that was going around basically being a contract killer and living a normal life was also cool. And just her response when they came and tried to cure her, and she was just like, yeah, no thanks. Hey, but hey, if you guys are looking for work, it's fairly simple to get into.
I can set you guys up with a hitman. It'd be great. But no, yeah, when she got pissed about her rug, I laughed really hard.
What were your thoughts, Liam?
Yeah, I thought it was really neat. I love when they do that kind of, not necessarily always a cold open, but I love when they flash back to major MCU events to contextualize the passage of time for a lot of different characters. We saw this in the opening scene of this series with going back to the Battle of New York, and people are already saying, okay, that was great, but how many times are they going to pull that card? Because they did it in Homecoming as well. To me, I think that they can use that as much as they want without it feeling cheap. But what's unique now is they now have the blip. And we saw it in WandaVision with Monica Rambeau. We saw it at the beginning of Spider-Man Far From Home with all Peter's classmates coming back. And even we saw not necessarily people getting blipped back, but we saw the ramifications throughout the entire series of Falcon Winter Soldier. So I really like the idea of having our characters that, we didn't see how they acted during Endgame, during Infinity War. We didn't see them get blipped. Yelena, we met her in 2016, and she has a brief scene in the post-credits in modern day. So everyone wondering, too, I remember that question making the rounds in press for Black Widow, was Yelena snapped? And Kevin Feige would always play coy, and now we know why, because it really just kind of emphasized, she's been through a lot emotionally so fast, because other people had to deal with 5 years of living in a world without their friends and family. Yelena, as far as this episode showed, everyone who blipped, it was like a couple seconds for them. So their world is turned upside down, and they don't feel the passage of time. So I really liked how that scene immediately caught us up with the ramifications of what's going on in her mind, and kind of contextualized, why is she going back to this life of contract killing? It's because it's familiar, and she's now in a world that she is a complete alien to, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, she really was the star of this episode, not only just with that stuff that opened the episode as far as the blip and what she kind of had to go through, not by being blipped, by coming back and, like you said, being a contract killer, but that whole interaction with Kate in Kate's apartment was just absolutely fantastic. Again, I know we kicked off this thing talking about Kingpin, and that's probably the biggest thing coming out of the episode, but the best scene, I would say, was that one interaction where she's trying to intimidate her by not acting intimidating like an obvious fashion, just what she was doing and her mannerisms. I mean, us wrestling fans, I was first introduced to her through the Fighting With My Family movie, the Paige movie that came out a couple of years ago. Her and that movie and Midsommar, whatever the hell it's called. I watched that too. She's been in a bunch of stuff, obviously.
You watched Midsommar before you watched Daredevil? Kind of are you?
Listen, someone gave me a free code, all right? And it was Halloween. I'm like, all right, let me go watch this. And I watched it. I'm like, yo, what the fuck was that? It was such a fucked up movie. But
she's also in that Little Women reboot that came out a few years ago with Greta Gerwig.
Yes. Yeah, I heard she was good in that too. She seems like she's great in everything. And whether she's playing Paige or she's acting like a psychopath in Midsommar, or in this show, she's just great in general. She's always knocking out of the park, and I thought she was fantastic. Obviously, she's in the next episode. She's got to be in more stuff. I need more Florence Pugh in the MCU, and I thought she was great here. Chris, what were your thoughts on her role in this episode?
I completely agree with you that the scene in Kate's apartment with her was amazing. Like, I've gone back and rewatched just that scene like 3 or 4 times. Just the way it opens with her like throwing the hot sauce bottle, Yelena just nonchalantly catches it and just goes, "Hi!" Like, just such a funny introduction. And then one of my favorite details of the whole conversation was when Kate goes, "Do you keep saying my full name just so you know that I know you know it?" And she goes, "Yes." And she just keeps calling her Kate Bishop over and over. But yeah, they did such a good job pacing that conversation, because it was like, it started out kind of fun. Like, there was a little bit of banter. She's like, "I'm in New York for the first time. I want to go all these places and see these things." And Kate thinks she's joking, and she's like, "What, no good?" He's like, no, those things are fine. You got to go see the tree. And she's talking about Christmas and all this stuff. And then the music switches, and she's like immediately in on Clint, and is like, "Why would you guys forgive him for all the terrible things he's done?" Like, the way she flips on a dime right there, and the way the music kind of changed, it just worked perfectly. And yeah, the whole thing with like, when Kate found out she was Natasha's sister, and then was like, "Oh, thank God I didn't kill you on the rooftop," and then Yelena just laughs at her. that was so good.
Yeah, there's so many little details.
Florence Pugh's a powerhouse, man. She's young, and she's already gotten all these great accolades for different roles. Like, I think she was up for an Oscar for Little Women. Like, she was very heavily lauded for that movie. So to know that Marvel got her early, and it looks like they have big plans for the Yelena character, makes me really happy. I really like a lot of the characters they've introduced post Endgame have been way more interesting than I expected. Like, Monica Rambeau was a super interesting character that I can't wait to see show up in the Marvels. And just getting to see Kate Bishop, like, within 5 episodes, she just feels like part of the MCU already. She's no longer, like, even though she's still a rookie character, like, I'm already used to her in the MCU. And I think that credit to that goes to Haley Steinfeld being such perfect casting for the role.
Oh, yeah, to jump off that really quickly, we always talk about on my podcast that the MCU rookie class of 2021, exactly like you were saying, is ridiculously strong. Like, the names you mentioned, Monica Rambeau, Kate Bishop, Yelena Belova, even beyond that, we have Sylvie from Loki, Mobius from Loki. I think one that flies under everyone's radar is John Walker from Falcon Winter Soldier. I thought he was one of the best developed characters in such a short time span. And yeah, it's wild because, as you mentioned, after losing 2 of the biggest heavy hitters in the MCU with Endgame, that being RDJ and Chris Evans, a lot of people cast doubt on who's going to lead the MCU going forward. And I think that answer is still kind of foggy because no one has emerged as the leader like RDJ emerged as the leader after 2012's Avengers. But they've had this breeding ground of so much strong supporting characters that will likely have a bigger role going forward. A comparison we make all the time is that Disney Plus is almost like Marvel's NXT, and they're trying out all these new characters, having them interact with established names, and then when they make the jump to the big screen, there's their chance to prove if they are a theatrical box office draw. What's cool about Yelena is they've done the reverse. They've done the Finn Balor. They've sent her back to NXT, that being Disney Plus, and have really elevated one of their younger stars, that being Kate Bishop, by just having her interact with her. And I think what Marvel's doing right now with their kind of breeding ground on Disney Plus is nothing short of extraordinary, and I can't wait to see these characters move up to the quote-unquote main roster and have your John Walkers and Captain America 4, have your Monica Rambeaus and Miss Marvels in The Marvels. I believe that's a 2023 release. There's so much room to play and so much elevation to be had within these Disney Plus characters, and I think they're doing it in a really smart way.
Yeah, I think I would definitely argue, I think when we talked about it, Chris, when we reviewed Black Widow earlier this year, that she was the best part of that movie, and I thought it was a good movie for what it was, but she was by far the best part. Liam, the kind of, just correction, I'm curious, are you talking old NXT or are we talking NXT 2.0? This is a very important distinction.
We are talking old NXT. We are talking Full Sail Takeover NXT. I don't even want to hurt my mind by making a 2.0 comparison to the MCU. 2.0, maybe there's a DC thread somewhere because their movies are kind of a mess. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah, we'll save the DC slander for a separate show.
Grayson Waller is the Jared Leto Joker.
Oh, come on. That's not fair.
Yeah, NXT 2.0 is definitely what Marvel tried to do with Inhumans.
Yeah, good show. NXT 2.0 is Marvel on ABC.
There you go.
Well, let's not disparage Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There was some good stuff there.
Hey, there's good stuff on NXT 2.0. There's Braun, there's Carmelo, but there's just not a lot. Andy Carter was a good show,
But I will say, now that they've opened the door for the Netflix characters, I really wonder if we're going to see any of... Because we've already seen Jarvis from Agent Carter pop up in Endgame. So that means they're open to the idea of using some of those ABC actors. So I really hope at some point we get to see Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. return. Because it's like, you already have her established as like a super powerful Inhuman character. You're bringing the Inhuman stuff into the MCU at some point. Like, use her as the jumping off point and just ignore the Inhuman show that was garbage.
Quake slash Daisy slash Sky slash what other name she had in the show.
Yeah, didn't they find out that Daisy wasn't even her real name at some point?
I don't remember.
I don't know, but that season with Kyle MacLachlan playing her dad, I think it was season 2, right?
I think that was season 2.
Yeah, that was great TV, and so many people had already tuned out of Shield by then. And I was really disappointed because I was like, this show's going to be on the bubble every fucking year for cancellation, and it doesn't deserve it because it honestly got really good after the big Winter Soldier reveal happened and Hydra upended Shield, and like the whole show changed and got so much better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that show did well of taking stuff from the movies and improving their show. It never felt like the stuff from the movies hindered the show.
Right. It's just too bad that nothing from the show ever was brought. Like, even in Ultron, they couldn't admit the fact that it was Coulson who got the helicarrier ready. He's just like, oh, I got some friends who got it out of mothballs. It's like, but still, like, it would have been nice if just Maria Hill walked up and was just like, oh, it was nice of Coulson to do this for us or something. Like, just give Clark Gregg something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that death means so much to the first Avengers movie that they want to try and keep it. They want to keep it as much as possible in the movies. So I get it to a degree. I think
Clark Gregg needs to come back at some point. Like, and use his Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character, which isn't even the same Coulson anymore through several different means. Like, he's basically a different guy now, so it would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying I understand why they haven't referenced him in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Because I feel like his death was such a big deal in the first one. So, yeah, I get not wanting to walk it back yet.
Oh, my God. You know what would be great? Is if in Love and Thunder, because Sif is coming back for Love and Thunder. I think they've confirmed that Jamie Alexander will return. Because she appeared on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She knows Coulson's alive. It would be so great if there was just some throwaway line where Thor is like, I miss Coulson. And she's just like, what do you mean miss him? He's fine.
Yeah, that'd be funny. On the Yelena stuff, I thought it was great that she was eating mac and cheese because that's what she comes in the house and asks her mom for in Black Widow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't even put that together.
Wow. My big takeaway was that she only had one fork.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. But yeah, that whole conversation, I was just like, okay, so Yelena is like legitimately terrifying, and like the way that she was doing it in such a passive aggressive way and was still terrifying was just really, really good. I mean, her finishing up the entire conversation, going, "Yeah, by the way, don't get in my way again."
No, that was great. And then she just
also the part when she's like, I promise I'm not going to hurt you. I don't even have any weapons on me. And then immediately just says, okay, that's not true, but I don't have any in my hands. And then she looks down at the Widow gauntlets and she's like, okay, that's a lie too. Like,
yeah,
she's basically letting Kate know, like, do not fuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think probably my favorite line in that is when Kate tries to come back and go with, well, he's an Avenger. And she goes, well, what does that word even mean? Like, because to her, it doesn't mean anything. And then also in the grand scheme of things, it's just kind of like, all right, well, you guys worship them here in America as heroes, but, they kind of are heroes. Like, and like in her mind, it's like, no, this is the group that got my sister killed. And then they did nothing about it.
Which makes you wonder, how much did Valentina really tell her about what happened? Like, how much does she really know? How much does anybody know about what happened on Vormir?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at some point, her and Clint are going to have one of those, heart-to-heart talks where he tells her what happened and she accepts it, because I'm pretty sure we're not getting a Hawkeye death at the end of this show. I've seen some people speculate that, and it's like, I think a season 2 is more likely than a death.
Yeah.
Because he's even said in interviews, like, I'd love to do more Hawkeye. Like, give me season 2.
Yeah, they already killed off Black Widow. Tony. I don't think he needs to die. I know they've teased him dying before.
We don't need to widow Linda Cardellini.
I think the fact that people still think he's gonna die when, like, they've been like teasing his death in one way or another since Age of Ultron, and we still haven't gotten it yet. And it's like, guys, he's not gonna die. Just let it go. He's not gonna die.
That's his curse, is he's the one who survives and watches everybody else die.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, have you guys not got what they're doing with him yet? They're not gonna kill him off.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
It's also a Disney Plus show, and that's not to discredit it, but I would be shocked if they kill an original 6 Avenger, let alone an Avenger in general, on the streaming screens. Like, for people who have died in previous shows, WandaVision, I can't think of anyone specific other than her kids, but we both know that they're coming back somehow in Multiverse of Madness. Falcon Winter Soldier was just Battlestar, whatever John Walker's partner's real name was. Loki, there wasn't really any death consequences, just a lot of implications going forward. I would be shocked if this series doesn't end on somewhat of a happy note. Like, I know a lot of people think they're going to put Hawkeye through the ringer and, like, kill him before Christmas and his family's all distraught, but I genuinely think that the show is going to end on what I've been saying on my own podcast, is a false sense of security, where Clint makes it home, everyone's smiling, Kate Bishop is back with, I don't know if she's back with her mother, because there's obviously some distrust there now, but I think everyone is smiling and happy, and I'm home for the holidays, everything's cool. But then Kingpin says something along the lines of, the equivalent of Thanos saying, fine, I'll do it myself in Avengers Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron ended on a semi-positive note for our heroes, aside from Hulk, and then we get the post-credit scene of, oh man, Thanos is coming. I think Hawkeye's the same way. We get Clint and the Bartons reunited, Kate Bishop, maybe Kate goes to the Bartons' house and spends her Christmas there, has this new family, everyone's happy, but then Kingpin, behind the shadows, planning something, and we're like, yeah, y'all better get to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's just going to look at the screen and say, free the Titans, and then Braun Strowman's going to show up in like a Santa costume.
Ring of Honor.
My God.
Oh, my God. Adam Shear, he's not Braun Strowman anymore. It's Adam Shear.
Adam Shear, he's just gonna free the Titans.
I was gonna say, I think who was it? I think Sean had said something. He's like, "Oh, Braun Strowman's here," and then Braun had responded to Sean Ross Sapp directly and said, "He goes, my name is Adam Shear." It's like, no shit, but everyone knows you as Braun Strowman. Like, don't get down to the guy's fucking throat.
My name is Greg.
Like, what are you talking about?
Fuck, I still call Cardona Zack Ryder most of the time.
Exactly.
Like, that's just, he spent a decade as Zack Ryder. Like, how am I gonna start calling him Cardona now?
My one is, I always refer to Danielson as Brian, which is technically not incorrect, but half the time I feel like I'm calling it wrong. You know what I mean?
The AEW fans will jump down your throat if you call him Daniel Bryan, so you got to be careful.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Kevin, or whoever, it was either Kevin or Eric, whoever does our grades for Dynamite. He posted, like, right before the show, like, now begins the weekly battle, not to say Daniel Bryanson, or, like, just a completely wrong version of his name.
That's great. Well, going forward, we mentioned it earlier, but I will definitely, hopefully, make the effort in the next 7 days before this episode premieres, episode 6, to watch episode 1 of Daredevil. That is my promise to you. I will try.
Bro, you got like 4.5 days, if that.
Oh, my God.
Come on, man. Watch Daredevil, man.
And I half of that time is going to be spent going to see Spider-Man again. That's what I actually have to do as soon as we get off this call. I have to go see that a second time. But I will definitely make the effort. Maybe on Christmas itself I'll watch it. Probably before then. I'm excited coming off of this episode of Hawkeye. And, yeah, I'm pumped. This was really well done. I'm excited for what they're going to be doing going forward with the show, specifically the season finale. And as far as what the show's going to end on, like you were talking about, Liam, I would be shocked if he had died before Christmas, and that's how they send people home for the holidays as the show ends. My Christmas would be ruined.
Show. Like, it's going to have a happy ending. Like, the way that this show has basically done what WandaVision did with TV shows with Christmas movies, why would people think this show is going to end on a sour note? Like, all of the nods to Christmas movies in this show, they're not going to end the show this way.
They literally had the Charlie Brown Christmas music in the last episode when he was going to Grill's house. You can hear it in the background.
Yeah, they had that. They had the Grinch song as the right after the Kingpin reveal, which I thought was very fitting. I thought that was great. I don't know what song they're going to put in the finale, but the addition of music on the show has been great.
They had the.
Oh, sorry.
What do you call it? The Christmas time in Hollis, Queens, while the Tracksuit Mafia were driving in a truck, which is a tie to Die Hard.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God, that scene was so funny because the one dude was just like, "We're like the Royal Tenenbaums," and he's like, "Do we look like the Royal Tenenbaums?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, I don't know if any of you guys have even seen that movie. But that line was fucking hilarious because they do look like Ben Stiller's two kids in the tracksuits that whole fucking movie.
That's funny. They said that, and then it was right after that they had the arrow come through the windshield, right? And that was when he screamed, but he didn't even come close to touching him or whatever. And it was just like the little piece of paper inside. I thought it was funny. Oh shit!
What a weird trick arrow to already have in your arsenal, like a message delivery arrow.
I mean, yeah, he's got a USB arrow. So
in any other show or movie, they would have just tied the paper around the shaft of the arrow with string or rubber band or something. No, Hawkeye has an arrow with a special compartment to deliver notes. But I think that's what's perfect. Like, I love the way they've used the trick arrows in this show so far, because they're not overdoing it. Like, some of the later seasons of Arrow started to overdo the trick arrow stuff a little bit, and I like how in Hawkeye, he's almost, like, tired of the trick arrows, it seems, and she's, like, super into it. It's just a funny detail. But one thing we need to talk about really quick before we stop is, do we think the scene with Jack being led away by cops is a setup? Like, are those real cops even? Like, is that them just making Kate's fears go away? Or do you think he's maybe more innocent than we think, and Vera is throwing him under the bus to keep her own criminal stuff, on the down low?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I assume those were not real cops. Just the fact that they timed it perfectly right when she was walking in the apartment to arrest him and walk out. I was like, yeah, something about this looks fake.
I thought it was. Yeah. To me, I bought into it. I bought a hook, line, and sinker. I thought that was a shoot, as they say. I thought that was her just throwing him under the bus. But hey, if it was all staged and they're in it together, I guess that would make sense too. Like you said, just make her fears go away. But I don't know. I guess they could always make him a redeeming character if they want. I don't know if that's something I want to see necessarily, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was going to bring that up too. I think we all forgot about Jack. Lost in all the excitement was Jack's arrest, I guess. But yeah, no, that's an interesting theory though, Chris.
I mean, the more this show goes, the more I'm thinking that they purposely cast and dressed up a dude who looks and sounds like the most villainous person ever. Like, he literally has a twirled mustache.
Yeah.
And that is the big red herring. And I do think now that we're going to find out that really Vera is the big bad, and Jack, maybe he's not completely innocent. I mean, the dude was at a black market auction, so it's not like he's not involved in some criminal activities here and there, but I think we're going to find out that maybe he was ignorant of a lot of this, and that Kate's security company is a front for something Kingpin's been doing.
No, I think he's definitely like a patsy, but I do think he's still like a bad guy. Like, I don't, and that's why I'm like, maybe he just took the fall and and he's going to be out of jail anyway, but yeah.
Too confident walking out the door. He's like, I'll be back in time for your Christmas party. Like, he did not seem to care that he was in cuffs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, last time I watched it, I was like, for some reason, he looks like Christopher McDonald from Dutch to me. Like, you know what Christopher McDonald is. Like, he plays Shooter McGavin.
Oh, yeah, Shooter McGavin. Yep. Love that guy.
Great actor.
Yo, they need to bring him into the MCU.
He just looked like him for some reason with a mustache.
Shooter McGavin. That's great.
I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, I think he does have a role in Secret Invasion. I'm going to fact check that real quick.
Oh, wow.
But I feel like...
Skrull.
I could see him playing like or shield bigwig.
He will be in an undisclosed role in Secret Invasion, which I believe is coming out sometime next year. That's awesome.
Wow.
I could see him being some kind of like bigwig at one of the agencies they have set up.
Yep.
It's possible.
He's one of the most underrated actors, in my opinion, because so many of his memorable roles are these goofy comedies, but he's actually really good in dramas, too.
No, he's great. He's a fantastic character actor.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about Jack? You talking about Shooter McGavin?
Shooter.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. I thought you said that Jack was in Secret Invasion. Oh, okay. Now I'm even more excited now that I realize that. All right. That's cool. Bring in Happy Gilmore, too, while you're at it.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine Adam Sandler in the MCU?
Honestly, yes, because at this point, they're just bringing in the wildest names, so why not?
Like, Don't even put him on the fucking steamed chicken diet. Don't give him a 6-pack. Just let him be like chubby Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Like, he can be one of the weird mutants in X-Men whenever they redo that just has some like random power, and he's just some wisecracking asshole in the background. Like, I would take that, but man, I don't know if I could take Billy Madison as like a full-fledged superhero.
Billy Madison. Yeah, that is quite the throwback. We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of questions going into this last episode of Hawkeye. I'm most curious what's going to happen with Kay. Who's she spending Christmas with? And Mom goes to jail. Where does she go? Does she go with Hawkeye? Is she off on her own? She still got the dog?
I think she'll be at the Bartons. Like, it'll be the 2 Hawkeyes and Lucky the pizza dog walking through the door, and his kids will be super happy that they have a puppy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be a nice happy ending. But I also think we're going to get like almost 2 happy endings, because there's going to be a scene of them in these Viking costumes playing with the LARPers.
I was going to say, I was just about to say.
What's going to happen? They're not bringing Grills back in episode 5, having him like offer to show the costumes that came in without having a payoff.
Yeah. No, we're definitely getting the LARPers at the end.
And my theory is still all the LARPers are going to dress like Avengers, and it's just going to be the 2 Hawkeyes dressed like Vikings. That's my big theory, because I think wearing the Ronin suit got Grills like, now he wants to cosplay as an Avenger, and I think all of them will.
Yeah. I forgot about the LARPers until like 5 minutes ago, but they'll pay that off. I'm sure they will, whether it be a post-credit scene or just the very end of the show. We're not watching Hawkeye die. I think we can all say in with full certainty right now that's not going to happen. And if it is, I may not even come back to talk about this next week, because my Christmas is going to be ruined. So I guess we'll find out as we come to a close here with these reviews. I'll just go see No Way Home another 5 times if I have to, but well, at least I know I'll be satisfied with that. But I'm looking forward to talking about it. Chris, obviously you're on the Twitter machine at BR_Doctor. Phil, you're on Twitter, PhilDL616. Liam, you're on Twitter at Liam T. Crowley. People could check you out. Liam, thanks again for coming on, man. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. This was an absolute pleasure. And I love when we get to chat about these episodes, not necessarily in chronological order, when we get to have the big picture discussions of what's going to happen, where is this loose thread going to get tied up. So this was a blast. I love how you guys structure this, and hope to be back soon.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely,
no structure.
Yeah, there is no. We just bullshit about the craziest things. I mean, this wasn't one time. I forget when it was. Phil, we haven't talked about Iron Man 3 today, so I don't know if the bingo card's complete yet.
Oh, you mean the greatest Iron Man movie there?
Hey,
oh my God! I have found my people. Oh my God! Why did it take this long for that sentence to be said?
I've uttered this sentence to console people every time that I can, because it is the greatest Iron Man movie.
It is! Oh my God! I'm so happy right now. It's in my top 10.
Reveal is one of the best parts of that whole movie.
It's
man.
The themes of PTSD, him returning to ground zero, having to build his way back up, Aldrich Killian straight up being Syndrome from Incredibles. It's awesome. It's awesome. And it's a Christmas movie. It's a
Christmas movie. That's how I brought it back up this weekend. I tweeted like Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie, and it's the greatest Iron Man movie. And people got so mad.
I'll be rewatching it next week. Oh, I can't wait.
I was gonna say, so Christmas is in a week. I mean, who needs a Grinch and Christmas Vacation when you can just watch Iron Man 3 and this show again? I mean, there you go. There's your Christmas MCU right there.
Yeah, watch Batman Returns.
Batman Returns, exactly. Oh, that's perfect. Well, this has been great, guys. Oh, and Liam, one last thing. We mentioned your Twitter machine, but you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but where can people find more of your stuff, your podcast, your articles, and all this other great stuff?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for letting me plug some extra stuff. The Direct podcast on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, etc. We release episodes every single Friday. We break down the top news of the week. We usually do a review if a show is coming out, and then we'll have fun feature segments, drafts, lists, discourses, etc. So it's always a blast. I write for thedirect.com, mostly Marvel articles. You can find me just by going to thedirect.com, and then our About Us page is I have a profile on there. So if you want to specifically look out for my articles, I got some fun Spider-Man No Way Home theory articles coming out about the future of that franchise and where characters could go. And then I'm also a contributor over at WrestlingInc.com. I write a little bit, but my main gig right now is doing their TikTok. I run their TikTok page. We do daily wrestling updates. It's been a little bit of a hiatus just because I was finishing up my studies and I had to go back to the academic brain for a little bit. But now since finals are done, I'll be all in on that. So daily updates, show previews. Occasionally we'll go live and just talk about wrestling and answer some questions. So yeah, thanks for letting me plug my stuff. I'm having a blast doing it, and I love being a part of this community.
Definitely, dude. I'm actually shocked with all that you do, especially in the wrestling and Marvel world, the superhero stuff, that we haven't had you on before. Obviously, Chris made the connection, but I'm a little disappointed it took this long to get you on here to talk about something Marvel-related.
Well, hey, now since you've had me once, I'm always available. I love doing guest spots, especially if you guys are going to do an Iron Man 3 retrospective review. I want my name at the top of that list.
I think we already have, but we may have to do another one, Chris.
I mean, there's going to be weeks off occasionally. We can always come up with something to do, but yeah, I've been on this like mini quest to get most of the people in wrestling media to talk about Marvel, and we've gotten a lot of people so far, so it's good to get another.
Yeah. Most definitely. Hopefully we can continue to scratch names off that list. Liam, very happy to have you on here today. And this has been great, guys. I look forward to the next one. Back to bullshit next week about episode 6, season finale of Hawkeye. In the meantime, go see No Way Home another 5 times. Enjoy the holidays. Go get vaccinated. Be fucking safe. And have an awesome. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks.